Thank you, Ian, and good afternoon, everyone. The Waterloo Region Economic Development Corporation is genuinely pleased to be sponsoring this Economic Development Speaker Series. As the first point of contact for businesses looking to locate, relocate, and expand in the Waterloo region, our hope is that this series of these talks will provide folks with relevant, meaningful knowledge to help organizations grow and succeed. That's the main reason why we sponsor these talks, along with the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Last year we did a couple focused on business integration, NAFTA, we did one on CETA as well. And this series mirrors our mission, which is really focused on helping local companies in all sectors be successful. My team is very highly motivated professionals, like the people sitting right there. Those are great to see you. Has heard this time and time again, in addition to my soul meeting today who you're working with, but they know that scaling companies is really not a concern for companies. It's actually a concern for everybody in the community, because it takes a lot of partners to be successful. The term scaling means, very different things to different people. Part of the cosmetic surgery part of the, the thinking. When it comes to economic development, scaling really means, small companies trying to cross the chasm and doubling or tripling in size, and some becoming international as far as the product offering, business proposition, and breadth. And it can mean that you're an established manufacturer just looking to reach new markets and you need to do a joint venture in Asia, or you're looking to develop entirely new products that will improve your sales significantly. It's about moving talent, first and foremost, to new heights, and it requires a certain mindset, access to talent, key marketing and sales knowledge, and it's really not about hiring one more marketer or a sales guru or management board. It involves a lot of moving pieces. And so, scaling a company is transformative, it's fundamentally important, and it matters. And the good thing is there are enough examples of successful scale-ups that it's also teachable. And that's one of the reasons why I find this theme very relevant. When it comes to talent, you can often figure out who in the community is doing big hiring. What do I mean by that? Well, just look at Thalmic, and their Steve Lake or Mike Albright, who is going to be doing the next session in November. A couple years ago, they had fewer than 100 employees. That last check was 60. I remember Thalmic from my old job as ADM of investment industry when they were 25, 30 people. Yesterday morning, I looked at the career page. They have 42 job postings, right? And that doesn't include co-op positions. So they're hiring full gamut, software engineers, manufacturing engineers, IP specialists, marketers, supply chain specialists. It's very impressive. And so for a company like Thalmic, the question is not so much, how do you take advantage of co-op programs so that you can keep driving your company forward. It's really about how do you attract executive level leaders, and how do you fill in the gaps so they can actually scale at a critical junction, right? And guess what? They're not alone. The last check, there was between 2,000 and 3,000 companies in Waterloo region alone. And I know this team came out in the chamber annual meeting last night that were in the same boat. So critically important time, which leads us to Julie Barker-Merz. Now, Julie's going to guide us through a few of these thoughts with you. I say thoughts as opposed to answers, because this is a complex topic. And, I think what we're going to note in her presentation, is that there are a number of things that we can do to move the yardstick, and a key piece of that is to keep the dialogue going and actually have examples that showcase successful scaling. Julie is a Senior Vice President, Southwestern Ontario Division for the Bank of Montreal, where she leads a team of retail and business banking professionals across 10 markets and 150 branches from Owen Sound to Niagara Falls through to London and Windsor. She's a board member of the Greater Kitchener Chamber of Commerce, board member of the Museum in Kitchener, advisor to SheGo, Radical Generosity Movement, and is the former director and treasurer of the Canadian Women's Hockey League. Very cool. She's a long-standing and strong supporter of women in business, sport, and the community, and a 2015 recipient of the International Alliance of Women's Top 100 World of Difference Awards, as well as one of Canada's top 50 to watch in wealth management in 2016. And there's more. In 2018, she was recently awarded Ontario's Leading Women Building Communities Award of Excellence. Through her 20-plus year career with BMO Financial Group, she's earned the reputation of being a leader who executes with pace, courage, and excellence, inspiring multidisciplinary teams to come together towards a common vision. She received her undergraduate degree at the University of Ottawa, her fellow from the Institute of Community Bankers, and her MBA from Dalhousie University. She's fluently bilingual and a mother of 2 young girls. That's an interesting coincidence, like you and I. Only mine are 25 and 22, so that's a little different. And I'm very proud new resident of Waterloo region. Please join me in welcoming Julie Barker first.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all. You're all fed, all relaxed, and then hopefully you have a cup of coffee too to keep you engaged and interested in this pretty powerful topic. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes up here and then about 20 or 30 minutes over there. And the idea is to set the stage a little bit for what I've learned and what's topical around war for talent. And then guide on some of the insights that I've learned in the team of almost 1,500 in Southwestern Ontario and you might hear at BMO. Also what I've been hearing from our customers as we deal with customers all across Southwestern Ontario. And I tell you, everywhere I go, we talk about talent. And we talk about what's getting in the way and how we can do better. And so I thought I'd just spend a couple minutes setting the stage. And this may scare you. But it's really get you thinking a little bit differently. Because 30 years ago, the term war for talent was coined by McKinsey. 30 years ago. And I suggest that this persists again today, perhaps even more. It's become quite a bit more complex than I think it was historically. The war, more specifically, is about recruiting, developing, maintaining talent. And it does consume all of us. And key to this war on talent, often when we think about talent, we think about recruiting. And if you have conversations around your table, typically is how many people have you hired? And how are you hiring? And key what we'll talk about is not just the bringing people into the company, but how do you retain them? How do you develop them? And how do you keep them growing within the company? And I would suggest that back end is far more important than bringing them in the door. At BMO, with over 45,000 employees, our turnover rate is roughly about 15%, depending on what part of the company you're in. So that means we're recruiting 6,750 people every year. It kind of puts it in perspective, doesn't it? And that means we work really hard to retain 38,000. So the effort we put into all of these activities are all consuming. And I'll share with you in conversation with Ian what we've done and continue to do every day as we think about our employee experience and how we drive a high-performing team. But first I'm going to talk a little bit about 5 things that I believe are fueling this war on talent. And those 5 things are skills gap and talent shortage, changing demographics, changing the face of talent competition, psychology and sociology, and business turbulence. So let's start with skills gap and talent shortage. You've likely heard the notion that students who go into university and college today are learning about jobs that won't exist when they graduate. And I think that is very pervasive. And so students are coming in trying to think about how do I get that edge and what do I need to learn? What are the skills that I need to learn to be successful in the career I'm choosing? And what we have learned over the years is having that learning mindset and the ability to learn and the ability to adapt to new situations will trump skills hands down. We can teach people what to do, but how to do them and how to show up every day in the ever-changing environment is really key. So that learning mindset is now quite a bit different than the skills of going in and getting a finance degree to become an accountant or a law degree to become a lawyer. There's so many other relevant skills that become more important. Gone are the days of those specific skills for the job they want. And gone are the days when we can go out and recruit the best and know that when we hook them, we got them for good. In fact, time and time again, we hire for potential. And when we bring them into the door, many of our new recruits either show up on the first day and say, this is great, I found another job that I really want. Or they stay for a week and they say, I found another job. And that used to be the exception, and it's now, I'm seeing a trend happening more and more, where people are interviewing us. We're not interviewing them. And it's putting us in a bit of an uncomfortable spot. And so that speaks to the talent shortage of not only needing to recruit differently, but focus on that onboarding part and making sure that we get it right from the moment they engage with us and ongoing. The second trend that we're seeing is the changing demographics, and I'm sure you've heard this time and time again. We keep talking about millennials. They're coming, they're here. 50% of our workforce are millennials. Now the interesting part is that there are 4 other generations that continue to work together. So we have 5 generations at play that are all very different and have very different needs. And so we need to recruit them differently, we need to onboard them differently, and engage them differently. In fact, McKinsey believes that by 2025, 75% of our workforce will be millennials. And while the labor participation is shrinking when you think about all the boomers and then following Gen Xers as they start to retire, it's putting the power into the hands of the employee, not the employer, where demand is outpacing supply. And in fact, it's not typical, or rather it is typical, the example that I shared earlier about people walking in the door and then tapping out right away because they're nurturing a bunch of different offers. The changing demographics also brings new values, attitudes, expectations, and ways of working. And I'm sure you can all point to some examples in your own workplace, especially in a community, I'd suggest, like the region of Waterloo, where you have access to very different environments. The pace of work is different, it's faster. The environment in which we work is different, the hours that we work are different. All these things are contributing to some tension in the workplace where we're balancing 5 different generations that have been brought up in a different way of working. So this takes me a little bit to the changing face of talent competition, number 3. We used to compete with Royal Bank for talent. Now we're competing with the shop across the street, Thalmic Labs, EDC. We're competing with companies where we work. We're competing with companies where we participate, where we buy. In fact, we talk about it a lot at BMO when we think about our customer experience. We talk about not competing with the other banks. We talk about competing with the last great client experience. We're competing with the Amazons and the Googles. And we're doing the same thing when we recruit people. And so we think about the experiences that people have in their last job as people continue to shift and change their careers. They're having different experiences and their expectations continue to rise. So this competition for talent is something that is quite a bit different. And when we look at people's resumes, oftentimes we're not just looking about your experience in financial services, for instance. We look at a broader breadth of experience. And we think about, again, that learning mindset and the agility of our employees actually shift and adapt with the changing nature of our business. And it makes for a pretty interesting recruitment process. And in fact, we have found that if you were recruiting 20 years ago compared to today, we used to recruit for bankers. And we're not recruiting for bankers anymore. And we're looking for an element of diversity in our recruitment. And at BMO, we take diversity very seriously. It's a core to our values. And when I say diversity, I don't just mean gender, race, religion. I mean diversity of thought. And we are now hiring more engineers to work in our branches, in our businesses, as account managers, for instance. We hire artists, we hire business grads, but it used to be get a degree in finance, come and work for BMO. It's not like that anymore. And we find that when we bring that diversity of thought to the table, we're better problem solvers, we're better innovators, and we can keep pace with what is happening around us. And I tell you, when you've got a team together that come from all these different backgrounds, it becomes quite powerful at growing our business and finding ways to work a little bit differently together, not to mention reflecting the communities we serve. So we can become a lot more adaptable as we see those needs change. So when you think about competition, it's no longer sector-specific competition. We need to think more broadly and think outside the walls of our sector. And I suggest the same is true for employees and their lived experiences, which brings me a little bit to the psychology and sociology. Employee experience is very much of a psychological and sociological pursuit. In fact, organizational psychologists are one of the fastest growing professions, and there's a reason for that. They seek to better understand and create environments for where people want to work, how we design our office space, and how we engage socially. And this doesn't include the social impact that millennials are so passionate about. Working with purpose is consuming our millennial generation, and they're selecting those companies who demonstrate that purpose. And values have to align to their own personal values. In fact, I was at a branch in St. Thomas earlier this week, and I was talking to one of our top performing bankers. And I just went by his office and I said, "How's it going? How are you doing?" He said, "Oh, things are great." And we just did a bit of a shift and a change in the format of that branch. And I said, "How are things going? How are you feeling about what we're doing with the company?" And he said, "Great." He said, "I love it because my values align with the values of the company." You never would have heard that 5, 10, 15 years ago. That didn't matter. And today, our teams are leading with that. If our values don't align, and if we aren't deliberate about putting our values at the forefront, and I don't mean just on a poster on a wall, but living those values every day and declaring those values in all of our communications, what we say and how we say it, is another important retention tool, and I'd suggest a recruiting tool. When we're being interviewed by potential recruits, they're asking us, what are your values, what do you stand for, and how can I give back? How do you give back as a company, and how can I give back as I'm part of that company as well? So that psychology and sociology of what we're seeing today is really shifting again how we recruit, develop, and retain. And it is very important. When I think about our values about 4 years ago, as a company, we embarked on a pretty elaborate process of refining and redefining our brand and our own employee values. And typically what you would do in a corporation as large as BMO, you would get a bunch of smart people together, bring in a couple consultants, get in a room and develop those values. We did something that I'd never seen a company do before, took a lot of time and effort, and we did it from the ground up. So we actually co-created our values with the employees who work with us. And we spent time with 4,500 employees through sessions, full day sessions, asking them what does it mean to work for BMO and what are the values that you believe we live today and that we need to continue to elevate as part of our company brand and as part of our employee values. That is a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort, and shows you why it's so important to really understand what the values of your own company are and what the values of the people you want to recruit that align with your company values. And just to give you a sense, our values, we have 4 key employee values: integrity, diversity, empathy, and responsibility. 4 words, again, you would not have seen in our own values. And we talk about them and we really do live them every day. In fact, we raise, when I think about responsibility and going back to millennials wanting to give back, as a result of bringing millennials into the workforce and seeing what is important to them, we have taken our employee giving to a whole new level. We give $62 million a year generated by employees giving in the community. We have volunteer days where we give our teams the day to go out and volunteer in the community. We never did that before. And these are the kind of things that we do that send a signal that this matters. And that we believe in aligning purpose and values to what we do and how we do it, and it's about retaining. I mean, let's be clear, it's about retaining the kind of talent that we want in our company. So lastly, business turbulence. I'd suggest it's probably the 5th element that's fueling this war on talent. And what I mean by that is that when you think about the Fortune 500 companies, almost 90% of those Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 500 rather, have disappeared since the list was created in 1955. This is in many of our lifetimes. That is a big change. And to really disrupt a global company, you used to have to be a large global company. It was the GEs and the IBMs that would disrupt. And today, when you think about what's happened in our environment, what's happening locally as well, we think about the Netflix and the Ubers that are coming in and disrupting. Competition can come from anywhere and quickly. and hiring the best possible talent to help you identify those threats and uncover new opportunities is key to creating that high-performance team. And when we think about hiring, we really need to think about hiring for the future and back to that learning mindset that I shared a minute ago, and the agility and the ability to think globally and think about those future trends versus coming in, checking in, clocking in for your 9 to 5 and clocking out. It's a very different mindset. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a headhunter, I'm not a human resource professional, but as a business leader, I am a recruiter. I am a developer of talent, and I am a container of talent. And I think about talent and employee experience with my team every day. And as leaders and operators of our businesses, I believe that we all need to have this talent mindset and always be open for talent. Times have changed, and we spend more time, effort, energy, and resources on employee engagement. I don't see that changing. This, combined with the heightened need to bring greater diversity into our workplace, like I talked about, to get that diversity of thought, is critical. And this is another reason why we've expanded our recruitment efforts beyond the skilled labor market or business grads, bringing in the engineers and the artists and the entrepreneurs, people with varying degrees of background, so that we can continue to accelerate and meet the changing needs of our community. Now, I recognize it takes effort and focus and a lot of courage to do different things. And I'm happy to share some of my own personal experiences with BMO, what's worked, what hasn't. It doesn't always work, by the way. But I may have a few tips that I can share with you along the way. So I'll invite Ian to join me up here and have a bit of a conversation.
I didn't set you didn't set me up for this, but I did cut out the paper last week. The Canadian Press Report headline is "Labor Shortage is the New Norm," says an expert from BEC. And some of the things that struck me is saying, small, medium-sized business in particular, depending on how you count, they were 50 to 90% of the size of businesses that we consider small, medium-sized. But the job vacancy rate is 3.1% in the second quarter, a new high since 2004. And the comment you made is, if you think this is a temporary thing, you're looking at temporary measures. Which go along with the issue of they forecast a long-term issue. So with that in mind, I thought that was really instructive because it's a challenge for small business but also large business. What are some of the trends you're seeing in terms of the job shortage and how people are trying to address them? Touch on some of them. What are some of the practical pieces that you're doing with your people getting at the talent?
Yeah, and that's what's tough when you think about a shortage, and when you put the control in the hands of the prospect, the employee. Yeah, it makes for a very difficult balance. One thing we did a couple of years ago that we thought was a really good idea at the time, so you're getting where I'm going on this one, was to hire more part-time. Because we thought if we can hire more part-time employees in our branches to come in and work during those key hours, we can hire more people. And then we can give more opportunities to people coming into the company, and then move them along in the company as it makes sense to them from a career development. And the challenge is with the shifting economy, it's not always affordable to have 80 part-time jobs, so now you're competing with 2 part-time jobs. And then you're competing with hours, and then we can't staff the hours that we want to staff them. And so what looks really great on paper, in practical terms, becomes a real challenge. And it goes against our values of career development as well, because when you're coming in part-time for a few hours, it's really hard to develop that talent. And it creates a real challenge. So I'd say the part-time full-time mix. I have heard that there are more as part of the shortage, depending on the data that we look at. There are more full-time roles, there are less part-time, so I don't think we're the only ones that went down this path and realized it's not a long-term solution. So we found that we're just constantly recruiting and refilling seats and losing people along the way, which was really difficult. So the other part of that long-term view, we've changed our compensation structures quite a bit. Also, when we bring in salespeople in particular, motivated by those higher incentives, we have all sorts of different programs, whether they're reward and recognition, trips and events, or some of these longer-term bonuses. And trying to get the mix right between short-term and long-term is that's the art. And finding people who are motivated, and when we can get them in and they get compensated in the way that makes sense to them, and work with the flexibility that is important to them. I'd suggest that flexible work hours becomes incredibly important as we recruit and we think about who we're competing against. Again, back into that competitive space. It becomes, that's part of that long term. Here's who we are, what our company is about, what we value, and then it ties all back into that, the company values versus the personal values. So putting those signals out that are long-term solutions and things that we may not feel comfortable with, because when we worked in a company, started working in a company 20 years ago, we may not have had all this flexibility and didn't kind of feel this sense of anger and frustration. I think I didn't have that when I first started working, right? You heard that, you said it probably. And so just adapting really quickly and putting programs in place that are not short term, that are really thinking about that long term, because you have to retain.
I just clipped out on September 1st, page out of Counselor College, and the headline, 77% of Ontario businesses say access to talent is their greatest obstacle to growth. You've touched on some of the recruitment part of that. I think that's what we hear, and that's what I hear. There's always regulatory issues or taxes or cost of doing business. Everyone talks about that talent issue. So on the recruitment side, I did mention Allison and the program that we have at the Chamber, really aimed at using co-op programs and experiential learning and getting people to experience what the job is. Is that something that Eagle takes advantage of? Because I think that's something that, whether it's a large business or small business, that's got to be one of the tools that we get out to this audience, to our business community across the country. Those are real opportunities to test drive what people is, get to know all those values you talk about, but you get to see how they operate. Is part of your recruitment is co-ops, those types of activities an increasing element of your plan?
Yeah, I'd say more and more. And it's tough. We have intern programs and we have co-op programs. In fact, we hire about 5,000 summer students every year, and it's sometimes hard to bring in short-term employees. It takes a lot of time and effort to invest in this talent. Same thing with a co-op. And what I would argue is that it is such a great way for them to test us and for us to test them. And there's no question, I've been really impressed by the talent that comes in. And if you can find a program or project, something to get them to sink their teeth into something meaningful that is really connected and attached to the company, so they learn what you're about, that when it comes time to graduate, it's much easier to bring somebody in who knows all about you, warts and all, right? No company is perfect. And they want to come work for you, there's a very good chance that you're going to have a much higher retention rate. So I'm a big fan of those programs. We also work very closely with some of the colleges where we operate in markets all across Southwestern Ontario as an example. We have a great program with London College where we are connected to their financial planning program. So they actually hire a program that teaches financial planning. And it's such a great way for us to engage with those students during the program. So again, they learn a little bit about us, right? Remember, they're all interviewing us and they're interviewing our company. So we find ways to engage very early and go into the classroom and talk about our company, talk about what we do, put on some events, we can get to know some of these students. So come graduation day, typically we have our pick of the best talent. And that's a great strategy. It's a bit of a longer term strategy, but it's worked really well for us. And I know that when we work closely with the universities locally as well, and we can embed ourselves in the co-op programs, word spreads, right? And it helps with our brand on not just in recruiting, but just in the community as well. So it really gives us an opportunity to better showcase who we are. In fact, I was having breakfast this morning with Dean Kelly from the University of Laurier, and he was talking about all these programs now, all these universities and colleges are really amplifying these co-op programs. There are more and more co-op programs, and they're worried that they won't be able to place their students. Because I think there's a disconnect with the business community in wanting to take in and invest time and effort in bringing in co-op students. And so I think we're going to start seeing some tensions that is a little surprising considering the shortage. Because we all know that I believe we should always have an always-on hiring mindset, especially with a large company. You never know who you're going to lose next for whatever reason. So to always have a pipeline of great talent is really important. So why wouldn't you connect and invest in co-op programs? Despite the effort, I think it's gonna help you down the road.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing this specifically for small, medium sized business, to get that message out, saying it doesn't have to be a full, 4 or 8 month co-op term, it could be a 4-week project that you want to do for a small business. And so we gotta get that message out, and I think that's part of the job, to get the message out from companies like you that are trusted advisors for small business, saying there's an opportunity there, and it's worth your time and effort, because you get to, all of those things, you get to access talent, and those sorts of things. So that is one of those challenges with small, medium sized, they don't think that they have the time and bandwidth to take advantage of it. It's, again, back to the first article, it's if you're looking for short-term solutions, you're not looking for long-term success. So, you mentioned some of the activities, and I think they're fascinating to hear. What do you actually hear from your employees, though? Like, are you successful at it? I think I read somewhere that Eagle has a leading employee engagement rating of about 84%, which when I read the report looked awfully good. But what are you hearing from your employees that they're obviously taking to your new philosophy?
Yeah, so we do take employee engagement very seriously, and so we survey our employees every year. And it's a 20-minute long survey. It's not 3 questions, it's pretty in-depth. And we measure our leaders on the outcome of these reports. And so there's a direct correlation on performance to how our employees are feeling every day. And while our engagement scores have been going up, which is great, so we do have leading engagement scores in our industry as well as globally. What I am seeing is, that worries me, is our employees are telling us that only 77% of our employees feel that they have the opportunity to grow their career in the company. And that's the part that worries me, considering with so much effort on that development part. So I mentioned earlier, recruiting, developing, retaining. Developing is making effort, spending time, finding out what do people want out of their career, pacing their career development at the right pace, because we know that a lot of new entrants into the workplace want that award, so to speak, right? They want to keep moving, they want to get more salary, they just want to move at a pace that perhaps the company can't support. So being very clear about what the expectations are, how do we guide, how do we equip them to add more to their toolbox so that they get the job they want at the time they want it, and how do we expose them to the different careers within the company so they feel they can have a future in the company. I've been with BMO over 20 years, and I work with a lot of people who've been in the company 30, 40, 50 years. And it's amazing, and that's dwindling. So I don't think people are coming into the company thinking they're going to have a lifetime career in the company the way we did 20 years ago. People are looking to get some learning and then to move on to the next bright shiny object. And that's great, because hopefully we can get somebody from another company doing the same thing, and that's how you get that diversity, right? Which I love. But it's trying to get the balance of the two. And if somebody wants a career in our company, we need to be there to support them to make that happen. So that one is a bit of a flag for me that I worry about. I want to make sure that people have the opportunities that they need to advance in the company and the exposure. So we will do things like career nights. And we do those now regularly, at least once a year across every one of our markets, where we bring people from other parts of the company into a location and we do some speed mentoring, right? So here's what I do, here's how I do it, here's what you need to do my job, move on, learn something else, right? So you know, okay, I'm interested in that job and now I know what I need to do to get there. But it does, again, all this takes time and effort, and we don't typically take the time to do this. And certainly my expectation of my colleagues and all leaders across the company is that we know exactly what everyone in our team is interested in doing, and then we're there to support them in that journey. And it takes us both to do it, right? And that's the part that 77%, despite the engagement, people are happy with their pay generally. They're happy with the company, they're happy with their values, and if they don't see a way to stay in the company, I think we still have some work to do.
I guess that's one of the challenges with people having more careers. I guess most people will not stay with any company, big or small, for a period of time, especially for small, medium-sized business. Where you have limitations on where you actually, your company has to grow, where you have some new opportunities. But maybe, maybe talk a little bit about as it relates to that in your company, the changes you talked about in terms of culture and engagement, because that's got to be the balance. It's no longer just a motivation, and even small businesses finding that too. pay is one component, but there's always other pays off. How do you strike that balance? Because you still, like every business, you'll have to, you've got a business imperative at the end. You've got so much that you're going to put into your business. How do you strike that balance of having appropriate pay and those other pieces that get that culture and that sense of engagement around things that are important and beyond the paycheck?
That, if anybody's figured that out, I would love to hear from you. Especially for us, when you think about bank branches, right? Our talent want to work 9 to 5. You don't want to see us 9 to 5. Right? We're dealing with that every day. So our customers are saying, I'm not going to go into the branch in the middle of the day. Right? Our employees are saying, I don't want to work in the evenings and weekends. Right? And so trying to figure out that balance to meet the needs of our customers with the needs of our employees is, I mean, this is what we sweat over every day. And sometimes it's, do the time, so to speak, and then you move up the organization and you have more flexibility, and that doesn't always work. We also have different roles now in the company that what we call specialized sales roles, and so you might have a little more flexibility. And finding the right person for the right role fit is, I think, is key in the early days, right? Just being really, really clear on what that looks like. We've tried to do more flexible work arrangements with our contact center, as an example. We have a contact center in Meadowvale, in Mississauga, and we've tried all sorts of different talent engagement tools. So working different hours, choosing your shift, right? And some of them have worked with, I'd say a certain degree of success, but if you can't do that well with a team of 1,000, right, that you can, typically you've got the scale to do that. Just imagine what we're doing in teams of 5 to 10 in local branches. And so we find that we're moving talent around a lot. We're promoting people probably sooner than they're ready to be promoted, but as a way to stretch them and grow them and give them different opportunities, and it's back to that talent and career development along the way, and then matching that with the hours that we can help support. But it is, it's a balancing act, and we do not have the answers. So like I said, if you have the answers, if you have an idea, please come tell me.
Just shifting gears a little bit away from your own employees, but you work and you and your team with business of all sizes right across this marketplace. What are you hearing from them around talent, and what, being a lawyer, whether you're an accountant or a law firm or a bank, you're a trusted advisor for your clients. What are you hearing from them around talent, and what advice do you give them, or do you and your people give them around things? Is it common, what we've discussed today? But how do you point them in the right direction?
Yeah, it's a great question. It is what I hear everywhere. As I mentioned earlier, everywhere I go, when I say what's your number one challenge, talent. And skilled labor is a real gap. When I think about some of our manufacturing customers are having a really hard time with them. And so they build all sorts of loyalty programs, referral programs to bring talent in. What we typically do in those conversations is find ways to connect them to other programs like co-op. Right, a lot of our, I'd say, small, medium-sized companies who we deal with may not know of all these programs that are out there and available. And so our opportunity is to help share what's out there and how to connect. And so we spend a lot of time connecting and helping them think a little bit differently around their talent and sharing and having a little bit of empathy, right? Because we're all in the same boat. And finding ways to share what we do internally with our company, what we're seeing others do to help engage, to help recruit, putting on events, introducing them to people. When we're advisors in a community, and we've got the privilege of being in southwestern Ontario, where you have amazing little communities where we know a lot of different players in the community, so we can help make those connections for them. And I think that's an important role that we play.
We're almost out of time, but I want to take, do you have any thoughts on, feel free not to answer this question because it practice away from the bank, but are there things that through your travels and your resume, you're involved in a lot of different organizations and you see it from a lot of different angles, the talent issue. Is there something that decision makers, whether it's provincially or federally, should be looking at to try and create more of a talent pool? Like, are there things like the education fund, hiring incentives, or other things like that you and your colleagues discuss on the business side? Because those are the types of things that we need to certainly chamber and those that interact with government on a day-to-day basis, what are some of the things that we should be saying, here's how we can make a difference so we can take the shortage of people and get people skilled up for the jobs that are available. Any thoughts on a couple of things that sort of hit you either on the business side or when you're dealing with your business clients?
Yeah, that's a tough one. A couple of things come to mind when I think about how to change this system, right? Because if we have this shortage, I don't expect that it's going to change anything soon. I don't think we're popping up babies like we used to back in the 40s, right? Like there will be less people. And although automation is happening and replacing some jobs, I think there's always going to be that human element. I mean, we've developed that, explored that very closely at BMO. And you may recall many years ago, we were starting to retrench in our branches and thinking that the internet of banking was going to take over, and we recognize that that's not the case, right? We're always going to need that human interaction. So I think there will be a shortage for a long time. We need to think about it differently. And so when I think about some things I talked about earlier around co-op programs and intern programs, funding can help support that for those companies that can't afford to do some things I've talked about. Help support paid internships and paid co-op programs, I think would be really just one more added incentive for companies to engage and get the benefit of that. I think some joint programs with universities and colleges to solve business issues by using the talent in our colleges and universities. I think we need to advance our education system to a whole level that would really help, again, help scale our companies. Like that's really what we're talking about, scaling through talent. And I think if we do some problem solving, bring all parts of the community together, we can get there. And then the only other piece I'd say, when you mentioned some of the roles that I have on boards, I can't underestimate the power of diversity. And diversity from a gender diversity, I think we have a long way to go. In Canada, we're still hovering around 18% of women on boards, which is a problem. And so I'm going to talk about gender diversity first, but diversity on all things that would qualify just as diversity. And so when we think about government interaction with some of these tools, there's concepts around quotas and targets and trying to elevate and demand more from companies. I think is important to get better diversity. When you have that diversity, then we can push our systems into a bit of a different place. And it'll help us attract talent differently. I will say that with the work that BMO's done, we have 45% of our board is women and 40% of our executives are women. I talk about that all the time, very publicly, and we've recruited as a result of that. Because when you think about the alignment of values as well, women will go, I want to work for a company that has the mix, right? And so diversity matters. And when we're being interviewed by prospective employees, they ask and they see, and they want to work in companies that have that diversity. So if we can get better engagement at the government levels to impose a greater pace of diversity at the board level, first and foremost, this is about getting gender equity. And so we've got a long way to go. I think it gets traction too.
I guess the one thing, just as we wrap up, that I took away from your introductory remarks, and I want to just quickly amplify is the always-on hiring mindset has to be, I think, for every business, small, medium, or large, is looking at. When you find talent, you got to find a way to get it to happen. Because hiring when you got a problem, saying I now need a salesperson or any business, the chamber, everyone will face that. How do you, is that something with the whole company, or is that you personally, the hiring, always on hiring?
I'd say it's the whole company. In fact, we just launched a program that is a referral program for our staff. So if you find somebody who's a good fit to BMO, we will pay you a referral fee to bring them in. So that's an always on, right? And I think about, I don't know if you've heard the saying, fire fast and hire slow. It's very powerful. And if you're going to hire slow, you don't want to hire when you have a problem, to your point, Nina, or when you have a gap to fill. And so we typically have, we will call it training roles, so we can bring people in, and so that you get them ready, you get them trained, you don't throw them into the lion's den, which is always a little bit unnerving. And so we have that mindset of always looking for people, and when you find the right person to bring them in, it'll pay dividends. And it'll allow you that when you don't, continue to raise your bar as well, which is important, right? We need to continue to elevate our team. You bring new people into your group, they'll continue to elevate. And then it gives you an opportunity to think about who's the right fit and who isn't, and to continue to move forward. So I say that's that hiring mindset. If I find great talent, it doesn't matter if it's in a restaurant, if it's a waiter at a restaurant, or if it's at a golf event or something. If I find great talent, I try to stay connected and find ways to either connect them to someone I know who's looking for talent, or bring them into the company. And I think that's a great way to keep the pipeline filled.
Perfect. Listen, we're out of time. I do want to thank Judy Barker-Mers for taking time out of your busy schedule today to speak to us today. On behalf of the group, you already have a copy of our book, County Roots Global Reach, so I thought as opposed to giving you your third or fourth book, we have a gift certificate for Gulf Steakhouse, so enjoy dinner on us. We do appreciate you taking the time and sharing your perspective with us today. So thank you. Just as we close today, I do want to thank again Tony and his excellent team at Waterloo Economic Development Corporation as their title sponsor, to today's host, Westmount Golf and Country Club, and to all of you for your continued support of the Chamber of the events that we hold that we hope are value to you. On your way out, please do leave your name tag at the registration desk, and we'll recycle it for future use. Have a great afternoon.